Hi, my name's August. We are filming from my bed, which usually doesn't happen, but guess what we're doing today? So this is my first book video. That's crazy. So I'm joining Booktube. That's kind of the whole gist of this video. And I thought I'd do a Booktube newbie tag, but the main reason I did this was, as much as I adore pop culture, I adore all sections of pop culture, but movies have always been one of my favorites. I think they're one of the best forms of storytelling. But I've always had a soft spot in my heart for books, and I started this channel because just books meant so much to me, and I felt like they're a bit more interesting to make content about. I also watch movies, and occasionally I may post a video on them, but let's get in to this. Okay, I'll keep these first 2 months short because they're kind of just exactly what I explained. Why did I start this channel? So I have had this channel for about a year at this point. I've gone through multiple different eras, I would say. I started the channel by drawing. You can watch some of those videos, and then I shifted into kind of more. It was more a bit of edits, and then I went back to drawing, and then video games. That was probably the longest one. I talked about video games probably constantly on the channel from about July to December, but then I started making around October some more content on movies, and then around last month I posted my first book video. You can check it out here. Or you can't, I'm just showing you a screenshot, but it was basically like, what book would you sell your soul to read for the first time, and I chose one of my personal favorites, The Traitor's Game by Jennifer A. Nielsen. This is an epic fantasy, definitely recommend it. She's one of my favorite authors, yeah. What are some fun, unique things you can bring to YouTube? I don't really like this question. Most of my videos are gonna be kind of, Booktube is a very distinct style of making videos, so it's gonna feel pretty similar to the other ones, but I'm hoping just on some of my other videos, just my book preferences and stuff like that can just kind of affect the uniqueness of my channel. What are you most excited for? So this is a strange question, mostly because, I kind of didn't plan to do books. I only got into reading, a lot about a year ago, and I fell in love with it, but the issue is, I just want to make entertaining content. That's literally it. I've always loved entertainment, and I just want to provide that the feeling I get from other booktubers is what I want to provide for you guys. That's kind of my main thing. Why do I love reading? This is pretty simple. I like escaping into a different world, because the world we live in can get so chaotic at times that it feels like it is a lot. But the thing I mostly love about reading is you just get to escape into a world of whatever you want, whether it be a dark fantasy, whether it be a heart-wrenching realistic fiction, Dear Evan Hansen, I'm Looking at You, or just a fun, sappy romance book like Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. What book series got me into reading? Okay, we're taking this one back a while. We're talking the pre-COVID era. The book series that got me into reading was the magical series of Wings of Fire by T. Sutherland. I haven't read the new one, and by new, I mean it came out 2 years ago. Mostly just because I sort of lost interest in the series, so I'm not going to read any of the new installments. I read books 1 through 14, and then I think I read the Darkstalker prequel, but I never read the second prequel that was released. There could be a whole nother series that comes out, and I honestly won't really know, and to be honest, I won't really care. But I enjoyed the books for what they were. They're really fun. They have this sense of adventure throughout all of them, and the lore that they build throughout these 14 books, they're pretty good, really light reads, and I go back to reread them every now and then, but I'll never get interested in the new characters or new stories. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? So I am in school right now, so obviously this isn't my job, but a lot of booktubers, it is their job, and so I understand that kind of reading 24/7 is kind of your job, but just for those who aren't, specifically Judah Blackford, you are one of my favorite booktubers. Big inspiration for when I make some of my comedy sketches. But the main thing is just how do you manage your time? I know a lot of you just go randomly, but if you manage time, you have like a certain amount of pages that you read per day or a certain amount of time. I'm just kind of curious about that because it's kind of hard to do all of that. I'm a big audiobook person. I like to read and follow along. Yeah, so my main question is just how do you schedule your time? What challenges will be the hardest with BookTube? This kind of is going off the last one, but mostly, like I said, figuring out a schedule. I'm hoping to read around like 75 pages a day of whatever book I'm currently reading. I am sadly in a bit of a reading slump right now, but mostly I'd say just like having a decent schedule of like around 75 pages a day. I know that may not seem like a lot to a lot of people. I'm pretty busy though, and yeah, and I've mostly noticed over the past few weeks. I also really like video games. My PlayStation is back there. And I just noticed my playtime has been decreasing like an ungodly amount. Like I swear I used to game for like at least 3 hours a day. Now I say like an hour maximum, but some days I don't even get into it. So that's probably the main challenge will just being, like I said, scheduling, trying to figure out time so that way I don't know if you guys like want book reviews, comedy sketches based on books. So yeah, it's just gonna be all of that. And more. Where do I read? I'd say I read a lot in school because I get a lot of my work done early, and that's just a perfect time to read. I think I love love to read on a couch. I know it's a very basic option, but sometimes I get so caught up, just end up reading in my bed for hours or just reading like on the floor. But just having a nice sit down couch, get like a couple. There's sitting down on my couch, having like some sort of food to eat, maybe just reading and getting lost in the pages. That's probably my favorite thing to read, but I usually would say I read at school or in my bed, but yeah. What kinds of books do I read? This is the final question. I read a lot. I mean, my main genres, I also made a YouTube short about this. My main genres that I read are dystopian, romance, and fantasy. Just to give you some of my favorites. Catching Fire is probably my favorite dystopian of all time. Same with The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but just The Catching Fire has a very special place in my heart. For fantasy, I gotta go The Traitor's Game by Jennifer A. Nielsen. This is a very underrated book. More people need to read it. Oh my god. Like, I swear, I don't think a single booktuber I follow has read this book. And I think it's a masterpiece. It flows very well. I've given it 5 stars on Goodreads. And did I mention I have a Goodreads? I have a Goodreads. But this book's really good. And then there's obviously the obvious ones. Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, all that jazz. And then for romance, I'm kind of cheating with this one. I'm going to go Loveless by Alice Oseman. This was my favorite book I read last year. And yeah, it's amazing. I don't know if I could necessarily consider it a romance. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. But it's a great book. Really recommend. It's written by it's a novel written by the same person who did Heartstopper. It's around 400 pages. And if you're an audiobook person like I am, that equates to about 11 hours, but it flows so well, and like time just flies while you're reading it. So I definitely recommend this one. And it pulls on your heartstrings a lot in the final like few chapters. So yes, love this one. Definitely recommend it. I also really like Twilight. That's a guilty pleasure franchise of mine. I know the books are awful, but I feel like Stephanie Meyer knows they're awful as well, and that's just kind of what's so great about them. But yeah, that will do it for my BookTube newbie tag. This was a lot of fun. I'm excited to make more content on books. I really am, because I enjoy reading so much. And I'm excited to make more content about it. If you're curious what my last now then is, the last book I read was Dear Evan Hansen. Oh my god, my heart. My heart is literally dying. Like, it was, you can check out my review on Goodreads. I'll put it on the screen if you want to pause. But I thought it was a masterpiece. That's probably the best word to use. And I've always listened to some of the songs from it, but I've never never listened to it fully. I have now, but I finished it as of the time I'm recording this about last night. It was last night I finished it, and then I read the epilogue today. But wow, I mean, recency bias may play a part in it, but that was a gut-wrenching story. Not for the faint of heart, but if you can get through it, it is truly fantastic. Then the book I'm reading now is Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. The book I'm going to read next is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I recently bought it, but I've heard really good things about the audiobook, so I'm going to wait until I get the audiobook in about 4 weeks, and I know that's my planned next read, but I'll definitely read more in between that. So that will do it for my BookTube newbie tag. I really hope you enjoyed this. I'm really excited to make more content regarding around books and more books.